Today I'm going to show you how to draw a complete diagram of a pathway. So a viewer actually provided me this image and has asked me to draw the different components of this. And so that's exactly what I'm going to do. So for beginners, let's get the overall shape of the cell in these colors. It's super easy to do. I'm just going to click on this circle menu, and if you don't see these two columns of tools, go to Window and click on Toolbars and Advanced. And if you don't see the control bar up on top, go to Window and click on Control. Okay, so I'm going to click over here to the circle, the ellipse button. If you don't see a circle, you might see a square there. Click and hold and go down to ellipse. I'm going to hold the shift key and drag it over here. Now there's our circle, and then just make it black for right now. Okay, so I want this to be a circle, and I want it to be kind of this sort of curvature. So I'm going to zoom in and draw a line just about like here. Hold the shift key and drag it down. Okay, so I'm going to hold the alt key and spin the wheel. Zoom out. So I'm going to have the curvature here. It's not quite. So I'm just going to drag this line out. The further I drag this line out, the more flat that curve is going to be. So I'm going to select these two objects, go over here to Pathfinder. If you don't see that symbol, go up to Window and go down to Pathfinder, click it and drag it over. So I'm going to click on this Pathfinder, and so this is going to split everything here, and it's going to turn it all into lines. Now it's going to remove the appearance, and so you're not going to see anything. So just try to make sure you keep track of everything that you see here. I'm going to right click ungroup, and make sure I click on this object right here. And let's make this black just so I don't lose track of it. Click with the left mouse button and hold that left mouse button and drag it over and release, and that'll move that object over there. I'm going to select these. Make sure you select both. The line is selected as well. I just can't see it because of the selection box. Click delete just to make sure you don't have anything left over. Okay, click on this. Let's hold the shift key and drag it up like that. It's going to make it larger, giving a decent curvature. So that's the curved line. Now I want to just draw a box here because I'm drawing the fill for this nucleus. So I'm going to click over to the pen tool right here. I'm just going to click on that anchor, and I'm going to hold the shift key. That will keep it perfectly horizontal. Click down here, and I'm going to drag this down, and I'm holding the shift key, and I'm going to move my mouse all the way till I see that purple intersect button, so I'm perfectly aligned with this point right here. I'm going to click, so now I have that, and then I'm going to click on that anchor. Now if you see if any of these lines are crooked, then that means you didn't hold the shift key and you didn't perfectly align to this anchor point. So that's okay, just Control Z and redraw that line. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but because we're going to use a clipping mask to make it to build the bounding box. But the more straighter the line it is, the easier that's going to be for you. So let's fill this with a color that looks similar to that, and I'm just going to copy their color scheme. So I'm going to click on this this shape here. I'm going to click the I button on the keyboard. When you do that, you should see a little dropper that kind of shows up. So now I'm just going to click on there and see how it copies that fill over to the shape. That's the nucleus. So there's a lipid bilayer here for the outer cell membrane, and they don't have a lipid bilayer for the inner cell membrane. I would like to just use this same design for the nuclear membrane. Okay, so let's make this lipid bilayer. So I'm going to zoom in by holding the Alt key. I'm going to draw a circle by clicking on that ellipse button. I'm going to hold Shift and drag it out. Okay. Now I want to extract that color again. I'm going to click eye. And the thing is, these shapes are so small and this is so pixelated and blurry that I'm not sure I'm going to get this exact color. I think I want to go over to the E on this word because it looks a little bit darker and it's probably the same hue as this membrane here. So I'm just going to click on that. I think that's a good color. Now I'm going to add this color to my swatch palette, and to do that is I click this little plus button, click OK. So let's draw some of the lipids. I'm going to click on the line button, hold shift and drag down. I'm going to add the same color that we added to the swatch list. Let's change this to 0.5 line thickness. And I'm going to hold the Alt key and click with my left mouse button and drag over. That's going to copy. Actually, I think I want to move to 0.75. I'm going to select all of these, hold the Alt key, that's going to copy. Now an important thing is you need to release on the left mouse button, then release on the Alt key. And let's rotate, hold shift, and then drag the mouse around. Release on the mouse, then release on the shift. And drag it over here. And let's make this, let's see how it's a square. I want to make it a round. That makes it a rounded edge. See how they're too close now? I'm going to fix that by just moving up slightly. Now I'm going to click on the direct selection tool. Okay, so I'm going to select these 2 points. I'm going to move them up just a little bit. And then I'm going to select these 2 points and move them down just a little bit. Just like that. So again, what we're doing is we're building this lipid bilayer. And this is a repeated pattern over the line. And so we're creating that first pattern. Now if you look, there's actually some spacing between these two patterns here. So we're going to add that spacing. So I'm just going to click on this rectangle tool. I'll make the rectangle just a little bit larger. Something like that. And I am going to get the same fill as this right here. So I'm going to use the eyedropper and get that same color. So just that pinkish color. Let's go ahead and add this to the swatch list. Click OK. I'm going to right click, arrange, send to back. Okay. So now notice the top of the rectangle is halfway in between this circle, and then the bottom is halfway in this bottom circle. And I didn't make the width exactly the width of this circle. If I were to do that, let's say I had it something like this. So if I were to do it like this, when it repeats the pattern, it would look something like that. But in this case, we want a little bit of spacing, mainly because the artwork above had some spacing. So I'm going to bring this back out so that it has a little bit of spacing. And to do that, I'm going to hold the Alt key, and then I'm going to just click with my left mouse button and drag it out. Notice how it's now expanding both sides. Now, if this repeats, then it's going to repeat like this, and then repeat like this. So now there's going to be a little bit of spacing. So I'm going to click on this brush. Of course, if you don't see it, go to Window, click Brushes. And what you're going to do is you're going to select all these objects right here, and you're going to drag it over until you see a plus sign, and then release. And then you're going to click on Pattern Brush. Click OK. So this is going to repeat that pattern along this line, and this diagram here shows us how it's going to look. So if I drew a line from here and I made an abrupt 90-degree turn, you would see there would be a gap right here. And if I make a left-hand turn, it kind of does this weird little funky thing right here. Now you can define how the corners are drawn. And what I want you to do is click on Auto Between. So I clicked on this little arrow and clicked Auto Between. So now you see how it curves around. So if I drew exact 90-degree angle, it's going to curve it around like that. I'm going to do the same thing as Auto Between. So click OK. hold the Alt key, drag it out. I'm going to move this little example thing over here to the left just to get it out of the way. And then here is that line that we're drawing. So I want to draw that same line here. So I'm going to hold the Alt key and drag it out. And then I'm going to use these scissors. Now you might see an eraser tool. It might look something like that. Just click and hold and go down to scissors. And click here and click here. And delete. So now you have this thing here. And click on this. So now it just repeated that pattern along this line. So I'm just going to drag it over here. And that's the first membrane. Now if you want to shrink that down just a little bit, 0.5, let's copy that and move it over here. Okay. And I'm going to remove the fill. So that is a sharper curve than the cell membrane. That's because it's going further out. So we're going to mimic that. I kind of like that they did that. So I'm going to draw the line here, and I'm just going to hold Shift key and draw it straight downward. So there's that line. We're just going to move this over just about like that. So again, as you drag this line over, you're going to get more of a more narrow curve. And we'll split again. So like that. And you're going to right click, ungroup. Click again on this object. This time let's go over to the brushes and just click on this directly and drag it away. Now let's delete these other things. Hold the Alt key. Let's make sure there's nothing left. Okay. So now I'm going to use the Shift key and expand this. Not exact, but it's pretty close. Let's do, I think I did 0.5. Okay. So there's the lipid bilayer moving along. Now what we want to do is, I kind of like how they have this gradient here, but this is a much brighter color, or a lighter color than what's inside the nucleus, but it fades from this color to an even lighter color. So let's try to create that. So I want to copy this, and then I'm going to make that shape. And let's make sure all of these are exactly aligned along the center. So click right here. Okay. Use the pen tool. Okay. And in this one, we don't want the cell membrane because we have the cell membrane on this line here. So I'm just going to click the I button. I'm going to pull this color right here. And actually, we already have this color. We can just click on this one. Okay. I'm going to line it back this way, and I'm going to right click, arrange, send to back. So now that that moves this membrane up front. I'm going to click on this object here, hold Shift and click on this object. And I want to create a fade between these objects. So I'm going to click on this little blend tool. So I click on the blend tool, and now my cursor is the blend tool. So I'm going to click on this object and then click over here on this object. Press the Enter key. You can do all sorts of things. You can do smooth color, you can do specified steps, or you can do specified distance. You see how it's a very smooth fade. The problem with this is that this color is very similar to this color. So I'm going to, let's do 0.5. Let's just see what that looks like. Okay, there's multiple steps here. That's good. So I'm going to click OK. I'm going to double click in here. So I'm going to do Control C, double click away, Control V. So now I just brought that shape out of this blend. So when you click on this, notice there's a line right here. This is a blend object now. So I'm just going to, so I have this object right here. I want to capture, click the I button. I want to capture this color right here. Boom. Now I'm going to do a trick here. I'm going to do Control C. I want to copy this object. Now I want to undo that blend object. So I'm going to do Control Z, Control Z, Control Z, Control Z, Control Z, and then Control Z, and then Control Z. So now they're back to being two distinct objects. But I still have that previous object in my copy paste storage. Control V brings that object back. And so now, see, this is a much darker object than that one. So I'm going to drag this over here, place it here, and then right click, arrange, send to back. Now I want to create a fade from this object to that object. Now I could use the blend tool, that would work, or I can just add this color to the swatch list, click OK, and let me just drag this over here so that I know that this one's darker than that one. Okay, I'm going to delete this one because now I don't need it anymore. I'm just going to click the direct selection tool, select all these points, and then drag it over here. So see, I clicked on that line and dragged it over with my left mouse button. I'm going to hold the Shift key, and that makes sure that I'm only going horizontal. Bring it over here and release. Now I'm going to go over here to the gradient, click on this fill, make sure this box is in front. Click on the gradient, and then I'm going to double click on this, which is going to be this side here. I'm going to click on this darker one. And then I'm going to double click on this circle. That's going to define what this fades into, the right extreme of the fade. I'm going to click on this one. And there we go. So now we have this fade. Okay, so now we need to draw the DNA. So I'm going to click the line button, and I'm going to hold Shift, draw a line like this. I'm going to use that color here that we've used for the darker color, the darker lines. Then I'm going to go over to Effect, Distort and Transform, and Zigzag. Do Smooth Color. We want at least 2 bumps. We're going to click OK. Go up to Object, and then we're going to expand Appearance. Now it turns into a curved line. Alright, now I'm going to hold the Alt key, drag it over, and let's do something about like that. Okay. So now we want to make this look like a ribbon. To do that, I'm going to click on this little line button and make sure I land on an anchor, drag it over, land on the next anchor. Anchor, land on the next anchor. Okay. Now the next step is to select all of the objects that are shown here. And I'm going to use the Shape Builder tool. Now I'm going to make this the overlaying ribbon. So I'm going to click over here and then drag over here like that. So notice how I'm dragging over here. So that's going to combine these two objects. Now this is the under part of the ribbon, so I just want to click on this because I don't want to combine anything. I just want to make sure it's a complete shape. I'm going to drag over here. This will make the overlying ribbon, something like that. And then click over here, because remember we just drew a line here. So if we didn't click on this, this wouldn't be a complete object. So I'm just going to click on that. Okay. Now we won't need these 2 lines here. Just going to delete those. Now we're starting to have a ribbon going on here. Now I'm going to fill this with a darker color. We don't have, I'm just going to click on this, see if I can lighten it up by going over here to the color guide. And let's, yeah, something, oh no, this needs to be lighter. So let's click one of the lighter hues. I don't know, let me just click on the eye to make sure that these 2 are the same color. I'm going to click on this, hold Shift, click on this one. And let's start going. Oh, this is going to change the hue quite a bit. So let's change this to that. Making it a solid color. We don't want to keep it a solid color. There, we'll light it up like that. Okay. And then I'm going to hold the Alt key and drag this over, so it's something like that. Hold the Alt key and drag it. So now I'm going to click on this, right click, arrange, send to back. Okay, so now we're starting to have the ribbons here. Okay, so now I'm going to draw a rectangle, and because I want to slide, the first thing I want to do is I'm going to expand this. It's going to be really important. I want to change these lines so that they're fills. So that these are actual a shape that's extended along here. So I'm going to click on Object, Expand. Click OK. So now notice how it's not a line anymore. It's got two sides here. So if I were to click on this, notice that this is actually a shape, and this is also a shape. So it's no longer a line, a round. So it's not a shape with a line around it. The stroke became its own shape. Control Z. Okay, so now I'm going to draw the rectangle. I want to make sure that I meet right up here, right where that anchor meets. I'm going to drag this over, and I'm just going to go just a little bit further. I'm going to change this width to no fill, and then a black, just so I can see what I'm doing. And then I'm going to click over here, click on 0.25. Now I'm going to drag this over, and I want to make sure I also do this little intersect right here. An important thing is I want to make sure that this shape right here looks exactly like this shape, to make sure that this repeats correctly. Also, this shape right here looks also very similar to this shape. I want to make sure, because whenever I cut this, I want it to be an exact identical repeating element. Okay, and I'll show you what I mean afterwards. So I'm going to select all of these, click here, and I'm going to go over here to Pathfinder. So I'm going to click on this one right here. Okay. So notice how it cut everything else away. So now I'm going to ungroup this. So I want to delete all the white. So delete that. Select over here. So see, I made an object here. I want to delete that. There's nothing in here, nothing in there. Okay, Control G. I'm going to group this. I'm going to hold the Alt key and drag it over here. I want to make sure it lines up perfectly. See how it lines up perfectly? Okay, now I'm going to click on the brushes here, select these, I'm going to drag it over here and release. And I'm going to click on pattern brush just like we did before. Do auto between, click OK. And now I'm going to draw this DNA. So click on that and see. And then click here. Here's the DNA copied over. And let's do 0.5. Looks good. We're going to do a clipping mask to trim off that. That's fine. Let's make sure these shapes look okay. Yeah, you can tweak it around, make it look however you want. Now, they had a little blue section here. Zoom in. And I'm going to make that by just using the little scissors tool. Cut here, cut here. And then I'm going to change the color by going up to the Recolor Artwork. Click on this. And then let's reset and edit. Let's change the saturation. See? Okay. And let's move this over. You can make it red, you can make it green, you can make it blue, whatever color you want. Click OK. All right, and let's see. Now we're going DNA to RNA. To make the RNA, just select this, hold the Alt key, drag over. Let's right click, ungroup, zoom in. We're going to delete this one, delete this overlay, because we're creating the RNA, which is a single strand. So delete this one, delete that one, delete that one, delete that one. I didn't delete this one here, because we're going to need it in a second. I'm just going to drag this over. Let's see if we can copy this one over to see if we can cover up that line. There we go. We need to fill this section here. Let's see if we can do that. Select over here. Let's use this little fill tool. I'm going to drag this over. Yeah, there, it's gone. Oh, that's okay. Change the color here. So I'm going to click on this one, click the I button, and click here. So now we're fully repaired. Select these. Oh, looks like we have a fill there. Let's delete that. Okay, now I'm going to go back to brushes. I'm going to drag this one over here and make pattern brush. Click OK. Make this auto between and auto between. Click OK. And we're going to draw a line here to draw that RNA strand. There it is. And we're going to go down to 0.5. There's the RNA strand. Okay, so the next thing is they have this little faded arrow. Faded arrow can be pretty easy to do. Let's click on this tool right here. Let's make it blue. So we're going to click on the pen tool and then make this black. And I'm just going to click and drag, holding my left mouse button, and then release. Click and drag, and release. Notice that it's making curves. And then I'm going to click something like that. And you can change this to make it look however you want, to make it look a little nicer. And let's make this a little thicker. I don't know. Let's do 3. Click on stroke, arrow, so we're adding an arrow. Let's move this down to 50. Okay, so now there's the arrow. Now we want to do the fade. See, because this one had a little bit of a fade to it. Let's copy that. So I'm going to go over here to the gradient. Click on the gradient. Oh, but we're changing the fill, so we want to Control Z. We don't want to add a fill to this line. We want to change the stroke, so I'm going to click on that. Notice how the square is on the front now. Now I'm going to click a fade. Double click on that, and let's add, so this maybe, don't have this color for some reason. So let's click on this, and didn't add it. Okay, so I'm going to add this color to our swatch list. Click down and click add. Click OK. So there it is on the end. So now let's go back to this object here. Double click on this gradient. So again, it's right over here. To get the gradient list, double click on that and click there. So now we have that faded arrow. Okay, so moving along, we have that faded arrow. And again, you can change this color to do however you want. And the next thing is this ribosome. So let's create this arrow again. I'm just going to copy it over, right click. So I'm going to, left click and drag it over while holding the Alt key. Okay. Now, they did some complex sort of gradients to do this, I'm going to show you kind of an easy way of copying the same object. So I'm going to use this little circle key, or this shape builder tool, the rectangle tool, but I'm going to go down here to ellipse, hold the shift key so you draw a circle. Okay, we don't want that. We don't want this faded here, so I'm going to click I, and then click over here to the orange, so something like that. And let's create this little lip that they have. So I'm going to do that by clicking on this pen tool, but going down to Add Anchor. I'm going to hold the Alt key and zoom in, and I'm just going to click here. Maybe just add another one here. That's going to add some anchor points. I'm going to click on this anchor point and drag it this way, creating a little border. And let's see, let me hold the Alt key. Let's keep it as a curve. I think that's fine, just like that. Kind of look like a little Pac-Man. Hold the Alt key and drag it over, and I'm going to rotate this object and put it back on, and then right click, arrange, send to back. Oh, not that far back. Control Z. Let's change the color first. So I'm going to go over here to this color guide and make it, let's Control Z because we want to actually change the fill and not the border. So I'm going to go over here to swatches, double click on this so that this filled circle comes up forward. Go back to the color guide and let's make it a little darker. And then now what I want to do is I'm going to hold Control and then do the left bracket. Okay, this left square bracket. And I'm just going to click it once. That's going to move it back one layer. Or not one layer, but one step. Okay, so now let's create this little 3D appearance in a little quicker way. So I'm just going to go up to Effect, go down to 3D and Materials, and click Inflate. And then just like that. Now, let's take a look at now this is just a very fast rendering. What we want to do is we want to make it fancier rendering by clicking on this little arrow right here and click Ray Tracing. Okay, and click Render. So you see how it looks quite a bit different. Now I do high quality, but you can do whatever quality you want. I think it's going to turn out about the same regardless. And you can do all sorts of things like change the lighting. So it takes a little bit of time to do all of that, but like that. Okay, and then you're going to click cancel that, and there you go. There's the it looks about the same. And you can modify these points after the fact. So click on this little direct selection tool, click right here, maybe drag this around like that. And it takes time to render it because it has to recalculate everything, but that creates that little spherical looking object, about the same. Okay, so the next thing is creating these little proteins that you see here. And we're just going to click on this ellipse tool and drag it and create an ellipse. And then let's capture that same color. So I'm going to click the I button and capture that nice blue color. Okay, and then we're going to make it, we're going to click this little button here, or we're going to change the stroke to this color. And we want to roughen up the edges like they show here. So I'm going to go up to Effect, Distort and Transform, and Roughen. And you probably have Corner. Let's change this to Smooth. And you can tweak this however you want and make a protein. Change the detail. Probably don't want to go too much more than that. So let's go back to this. And each time you let go, it's going to redraw this because there's a little bit of a randomness done here. Okay. Something like that. Click OK. And let's do this fading that they have, this gradient. So I'm going to go over here to gradient. And make sure this is on top, and then click the linear gradient. And I'm going to click on this circle. I'm going to use the eyedropper. Let's do the lighter color. Then I'm going to click on this object, or this little circle right here, for the right hand side of the gradient. And then I'm going to click over here. So something like that. Click OK. And so there you go, that's similar. And if you want to do these little glares that you see right here, hold the Alt key and just use the pencil tool and change this fill to no fill, and then change this to white. And you can add some some glare. Maybe I'm going to change this, make this curve a little bit. Each time you redraw over with the pencil tool, it's going to change that line. So I'm going to click on that and hold shift and click over here. So now I'm modifying both of these lines. Let's change the opacity to about 50%. I'm going to select both of these objects, hold shift and unclick that, and hold shift and unclick that, and hold shift and unclick. Okay, let's try this again. So I'm going to select both of these objects, and then I'm going to hold shift and select that. Okay, so let's try this again. So I'm going to select just these objects. I want to group them. I'm going to select all of this right here. And that's going to also select the objects in the background, but I want to deselect those objects in the background. So I'm going to hold shift again and drag, but just so that it overlays these two objects here. So I'm going to release that, and now I'm only selected all of these objects. Hold Control and press G. That groups these objects together. And, we can drag this over here. I'm going to drag this line this way. Okay. Now this little X here is just a circle, and you can make it I don't know, whatever color you want. Here, I'll just capture their color. And I'm clicking on this, that flips the fill to this stroke. I'm going to increase the thickness, and then I'm going to draw a line across here. There. That's how you draw that part. And let's draw this little RNA virus thing, or mRNA drug. So I'm going to hold Alt and drag this over here. And to create that little membrane or that protein shell, I'm going to draw a line, hold shift and just draw a line across like that. And let's get that color. So I'm going to hold the I key. Actually, we can just let's just use the darker color that we've been using, this one right here. And let's increase the thickness, something like that. I'm going to hold the Alt key and spin my mouse wheel so I can zoom in. Let's draw another line just right in the center here. Okay. Let's click on this last point and drag it up so it's a little taller. And let's make this 2. And now we're going to click on the brush menu, do the same way and just drag it over here. Click the pattern brush, click OK. Again, auto between, click OK. Let's just delete that. Click the ellipse tool, hold shift and drag it this way. Go just like that, and then click this again, and there we now have the RNA virus, or the whatever capsule that they have. Now we want to add this fill. We want to add a fill so that it matches this color in here. Click over here, and click that one. Now, it looks like the DNA disappeared, but that's okay. It's because I drew this over the DNA. Just right-click, arrange, send to back. Okay, let's draw that one little arrow again. Hold Alt key and drag it this way. Remember, whenever you're holding that Alt key, to release the left mouse button first before we release the Alt key. I'm going to click this anchor point and drag it over here. It looks kind of funky, but we'll fix it. Click over here, drag this down. Spin this way. These are the handles so that you change the anchor points. Something like that. Okay, so that's a pretty close rendition of, or reproduction of what you show here. I mean, the red arrow is drawn the same way as the black arrow, just change that color to red. Oh, look, I went the wrong direction. Okay, well. Let's change this around. Flip that just like that. Click over here, drag this up. Something like that. You can get the design about how you want. Except now, notice that the fade is the wrong direction. I want this to be red. So I'm going to click on this object, go over here to the gradient, click over here so that I can modify the gradient. Click again. What is it? Oh, let me go over here to this. And this needs to be a no fill. So I'm going to remove the fill there. Cancel. And then click over here so that I'm modifying the stroke. And now what I want to do is this right here needs to be red, so I'm going to double click and make it darker red. And then over here, this I'm gonna actually double click, and I need to pull this color here because I don't want to get this color. I want to pull that. So I'm going to click on this eyedropper and click there. Actually, you want this to be white. Let's make it white. Because this is going to go outside the membrane. So I'm going to click over here to the selection tool. Actually, I'm going to do the direct selection tool. Click here and drag it out. Okay. I don't like this. I need to extend this way. Make this a little more curved so it's a little more smoother. Okay. Go back to the selection tool. Select these two objects and drag it out like that. Okay, one more thing. We want to do a clipping mask on here. See how it doesn't quite match up to these lines. We want to make this look clean and smooth. So last thing to do is click on this tool here and move over to and click on rectangle. And I want to draw a rectangle. Let's draw it just slightly smaller than this shape here. So let's make this black and 2.25. Alright, so let's select all of these objects and then click again on this new rectangle that you just drew and right click and you want to click make clipping mask. Okay, so that is how you draw this figure in Adobe Illustrator.